I also didn't tell you that Penny Marshall was a finalist for the role of Gloria. Who was living with and about to marry Rob Reiner at the time. Sally SDRs was the love interest of America on 8 Years in the Family. However, there is one 1975 episode in which she wants to talk about it. She quickly shifts the topic when reporters bring it up. After a single broadcast, the episode was never seen again. Even her co-stars don't discuss it. Because of how surprising what transpired that the evening was, CBS officials got hundreds of fire rate letters. The video is still in the network's vault somewhere. However, Sally has stated unequivocally that she will carry this secret into the afterlife. On July 28, Sally Ann SDRs was born in Portland, Oregon, 1947. She was Dr. Robert Alden's second daughter, Jer's brothers and Margaret Carolyn. Her grandparents were aware of actual struggle. Her grandfather made barely enough money in the 1930s, less than $25 per week for a small flat with 2 rooms, although the family felt stable because of her father's work as a doctor. The burden of those working-class origins at all times. Sally was 9 years old when her entire world was altered. Her father abruptly left her when he left. Mother to bring up 2 daughters by herself. There was no funding available, and Margaret, who was already struggling with severe depression, had to find employment. She accepted a position with Portland's Bonneville Power Administration. At the time, their female clerks made about $2,000 annually, but doctors made more on average than $12,000. It was a crushing gap. On certain days, Margaret felt so overpowered by depression that made it difficult for her to leave her bed. To keep herself safe, Sally said her father's classmates had just left for work. However, within Shenhurst, a wound that never completely healed the ache of abandonment, existence in Northeast Portland's Concordia neighborhood was straightforward but challenging. The streets were narrow, the houses were modest, and the stench was frequently in the air. Of logging mills, a typical family in the region made less money by 1960 than $4,800 annually, far less than the national average. Regarding the SDR's household, powdered government cheese and milk were necessities, and the majority of Sally's clothing was hand-downs. Although she tried her hardest in school, she felt ashamed to bring friends home, to blend in. She also supported her sibling and assisted her mother with household duties. Despite the difficulties, Concordia's children managed to make people happy. They constructed cardboard box castles, transformed vacant sites into playgrounds, and until the streetlights came on, they played tag. At night, Sally would frequently remind herself that difficult circumstances create tough people, a slogan that she carried with her. Later, the anguish of her father's absence turned into motivation for her most well-known work in life. In 1977, during the peak of Sally became the face of the Christian Children's Fund after her success on All in the Family. She was in front of cameras and talked of kids who, like her, had been left behind and abandoned. She didn't see it as merely a work. She occasionally cried after reading the scripts, according to those who worked with her. By 1999, her work had been beneficial. Raised almost $100 million for underprivileged kids worldwide. Numerous sponsors of children through the charity reported feeling touched because Sally brought to mind the daughter, or they wished they had a mother. Publicity was not the purpose of her job. It served as a means of transforming her own suffering into others' healing. Prior to all of this, Sally had discovered a present that slightly improved life. When she was in primary school, she realized that the weight of melancholy might be lifted by comedy. When she was 10, she started acting out skits and imitating TV personalities for her family in their tiny living room. Sister and mother. By the time she was 12, her humorous skills had won over teachers. Timing and mimicry skills. She took first place at a school talent show. Spot by posing as Ed Sullivan and even applying cotton to her cheeks. For impact, she felt in control and able to escape while she performed. For the few, she could occasionally substitute laughter for melancholy, and the smiles she saw in her, she believed in her gift after seeing her mother's expression. Sally left Portland at the age of 17 with just a dream and $1,200. She relocated to Los Angeles in order to attend the Pasadena School of Acting, one of the nation's most prestigious theatrical schools. Is Playhouse. She prevailed a scholarship and quickly earned the coveted title of Most Promising Student, that very few people ever accomplished. Teachers recognized something unique about her and referred to her as innate ability with a dash of fame. The actual Playhouse, while shaving financial difficulties at the time, and very few pupils went on to get significant television parts, Sally turned out to be one of them. She had a difficult early career. In 1970, she performed and danced on programs such as the Tim Conway Comedy Hour and the Smothers Brothers Summer Show. Regarding Conway's, after just a few rehearsals, a producer abruptly removed her from the play, claiming her too much excitement gave the program a cheesy appearance. It was a harsh rejection. Blow, particularly considering that she was just 23 and had less than $100 in her bank account. Years later, Tim Conway acknowledged that he felt bad about letting her go, claiming that she had introduced a wild and original element to the stage. But that particular setback turned out to be her pivotal moment. Her schedule was free after her termination, which coincided with CBS's need for a new cast member for the All in the Family series. Just a few weeks following her termination, in October 1970, the auditions were held. She had previously been spotted on a Smothers Brothers episode by the show's creator, Norman Lear. He claimed that she possessed the exceptional capacity to simultaneously make people laugh and cry. He was aware of Sally's audition. She was immediately Gloria Bunker's ideal pick. As of January 1971, every week America watched her in the role that would come to define her career. Sally herself thought Penny Marshall would win the role instead of her, because she was sapid more like Jean Stapleton, who portrayed Edith Bunker, and was then dating Rob Reiner. Sally felt unnoticeable. In the waiting room sat next to Penny. However, Norman Lear informed her, "Edith is already there." The assurance was, "We need someone who makes Gloria her own." Altered everything. But Sally SDR's once made public a remark made by Norman Lear that plagued her for many years. Early on in All in the Family's first season A's, the show was starting to gain popularity and become America's top sitcom. She apprehensively asked Lear if he had picked her because, out of all the actresses who tried out, she was the funniest. She was surprised by his response. "We hired you because, like Carol O'Connor, you have blue eyes," he said to her, "eyes and a plump face." Lear clarified that viewers would only become receptive to if his daughter appeared to be a daddy's girl. O'Connor's stern and prejudiced Archie Bunker would be furious. The language was direct and cold, and they remained with her throughout her lifetime. She did not retort, she just walked away, stunned. As the popularity of the show increased, Sally discovered herself excluded in ways that were painful. Despite serving as the lead for 8 years on, she was never invited to Norman Lear's renowned dinner parties. Despite the show being one of the most viewed on television, it was customary for Carol O'Connor, Jean Stapleton, and Rob Reiner to sit at these events with their spouses at Lear's table. They never included Sally. Later she acknowledged that "I hadn't been invited to his house in 8 years. It wasn't pleasant, seeing how her co-stars grew closer to Lear while she stayed on the outside. Of strength tend her feeling of exclusion. Regardless of how many honors or recognitions, despite her several Emmy-winning performances throughout the years, Lear never thought she was more than the fourth banana, as he put it. The main emphasis always gave priority to Rob Reiner, Jean Stapleton, and Carol O'Connor Solis, both in dialogue and the writing. Her name and her persona frequently came last. According to her, "I was fourth banana after the other three." Although she plays a crucial role in Archie Bunker's was always kept in the background. Daughter, a contributing factor. Sally stated that the authors found it difficult to craft lines that would have any meaning for her. The group, which she characterized as "it," was common for older, accomplished Jewish religion authors to acknowledge that they were unable to write for a young woman like Gloria. She was given the same 3 lines every week. "I'll assist you in setting theme a table. Where are you going, Michael? And stop it, Daddy." Every new episode she was left yearning for more substance when he rearranged those sentences. When they were unsure of what to, the authors just sent her off screen with her character. She would be instructed to take a bath or go upstairs to wash her hair while the rest of the household discussed the important topics of racism, politics, or bigotry downstairs. Sally claimed that this caused her to feel erased, particularly because it meant that there were no female voices present at the precise times that characterized the show's audacious image. 5 seasons later, in 1974, her frustration got out of control. She made the decision to file a lawsuit against Norman Lear, resolved to breach her agreement. The lawsuit cost her $40,000 in legal fees during a period when she was earning roughly $35,000 annually, demonstrating how desperate she had evolved to avoid the role. The industry was stunned by the case. A small number of actors in the 1970s dared to take on a figure as strong as Lear. The argument moved to battery. Every week, more than 40 million people watched All in the Family, which made her defiance even more apparent. Dangerous Sally talked about how oppressive the set felt throughout the hearings and how, compared to her co-stars, she was underappreciated. The tale swiftly gained traction, exposing the hidden hardships of a young lady confined within the biggest blockbuster on television. Sally, however, lost. She had to remain for 3 more seasons as a result of the verdict. She then claimed that it was like being imprisoned by her own achievements. Going back to the set solely in those situations made matters worse. She felt more and more isolated as tension increased with her co-stars out of imaginative choices. She experienced her own emotions even as the show set records. Their career was being suppressed. Paradoxically, the years following her case proved to be the only time she had positive memories of. From season 6 until season 8, Gloria the Stivics moved in next door to the Bunkers after she became a mother. The composition gave her more to work with at last. She explained these seasons from approximately 1975 to 1978, which she acknowledged was the most enjoyable year she had on the show, but she still felt apart from the others. In 1972, she did win 2 Primetime Emmys, in 1979 for Best Supporting Actress. However, in spite of such accolades, she acknowledged for the majority of her years on the show. She felt that her creativity was being suppressed. To the general public, she was the favored daughter in America. In the background, she battled with a everyday letdown and questioned whether she actually fit in the field. From It's All in the Family was a lightning rod in its January 1971 premiere. It shows daring use of profanity and startling situations compelled America to address the pervasive discrimination that many people attempted to overlook. Archie Bunker's derogatory remarks and offensive stereotypes were meant to be humorous and a mirror held up to the community. However, research by 1974 revealed a concerning finding. Many viewers who were racist did not find Archie funny. They were cheering him on. A few episodes pushed limits to the point where they are now hardly noticeable. In 1975, Archie made an appearance in blackface for a minstrel show performance during Birth of the Baby Part 2. Even so, letters of protest were written by audiences. Many years later, the episode is regarded as unwatchable, and reruns and streaming sites hardly ever feature it. Sally frequently clarified that these scenes were subject to stringent cast guidelines. Archie couldn't leave if someone else in the episode confronted him about saying something unpleasant or racist. If there is no correction, the line would be cut if pushed back or other information was typed in. The authors wrote it was difficult to ensure that the joke was always about bigotry rather than the targets of the mockery. However, further research revealed that many viewers failed to notice the satire despite those safeguards. Some just chuckled, not at Archie but beside him. Eventually, incidents involving insults or blackface subtly vanished from use as platforms and networks have used the show's legacy in light of contemporary norms. Sally Struthers got married. William C. Rader, a psychiatrist in Los Angeles, on December 18, 1977, in the midst of her Hollywood triumph. She was enthralling millions of people on All in the Family, and their nuptials were well reported. The limelight garnered additional attention right away. There was no ordinary partner like William. He was a well-known person who would later become well-known for owning a medical clinic and as a medical expert on television. Eating disorder treatment facility in the 1980s. When they were married, William had 3 children from a prior marriage. Thus, Sally was a stepmother in addition to being a wife. Their relationship started in a surprising way overnight. Sally required a date. William consented to go with her to a black tie function. By the time that she fell deeply in love the first night, in a unique development for the 1970s, Sally made the marriage proposal. At the time, their union was unique in Los Angeles culture, uniting the domains of fame and intelligence in a manner that few couples have accomplished. Thus, Samantha, the couple's only child, was welcomed into the world. Sally selected Thea because it has profound significance. Her mother had frequently referred to her as a child Aspie, giving her own daughter the name Samantha Featherhead. She established a connection spanning 3 generations. Samantha was born in late 1978 or early 1979. Early in 1979 when she was pregnant. Sally thought she was expecting a boy, and she subsequently acknowledged that she hadn't decided on a name for the daughter till the birth, choosing to adopt her mother's moniker provided the family with a meaningful and enduring relationship. Because of its historic origins, the name itself has added meaning. Samantha meant listens in Hebrew. Well, and it means blossom in Greek and Aramaic. During that same period, the name came even more identifiable thanks to cultural allusions, such as Samantha Stevens from Bewitched. However, 4th SDR's family's name had a far more intimate connotation. In spite of their Williams and Sally had a passionate beginning and a marriage that lasted just over 6 years. I tended when Sally was 35 years old. On January 19, 1983, the split occurred during a period of significant shift in both of their lives. Sally was still coping with the strain and notoriety that came with being famous in the family as William developed his media and psychiatry careers. For Sally once talked kindly of their life together, stating that they had been together for 4 years, were sufficiently acclimated to not perceive one another's incomes as a threat. But their differences gradually turned into more difficult to control. I'm a spouse, not a therapist, William once told his wife, which alluded to private difficulties. Their split was concluded in Los Angeles Superior Court, and the narrative started to be discussed frequently. Within the tabloids, Sally's life changed forever as a result of the divorce. She turned into an unmarried mother during a period when the difficulties of juggling work in Hollywood with parenting a kid. Sally purposefully chose her career path to remain near some. She declined positions requiring extensive travel and even stood down from returning from television. Occasionally, in order to provide her daughter a secure environment, she gave CBS assurances in 1981 that she wouldn't reprise her Gloria role in a future episode of All in the Family spin-off, in part due of her desire to avoid interfering with her daughter's life. For a celebrity of her caliber, this was an uncommon and audacious move. Later, friends explained how Sally created a peaceful and stable atmosphere for Samantha in her once hectic home. She was employed at theater, performed voice acting, and cautiously appeared in television guest spots. Selecting endeavors that would enable her to continue being involved in her daughter's life. Samantha eventually developed into her own eventually becoming clinical psychologist Dr. Samantha Erter, who founded Auermann's Wellness Haven. This has been widely seen as evidence that Sally's daughter was able to succeed because of the sacrifices she made. Sally's personal upbringing contributed to her resolve. Her mother was left alone after her father left the household to struggle with depression while raising the kids. She carried that experience with her, and it influenced their determination to be a mommy in a different way, despite the difficulties of being a single parent, and that despite the demands of celebrity. Sally provided her daughter with the same stability that she had desired. In addition to being a mother and an actor, Sally also became another reason for becoming a well-known figure on American television. She served for 35 years as a representative of Save the Children, formerly the Christian Children's Fund. Her advertisements, where she talked passionately about the poverty she had seen, which was hard to ignore. Late at night, they ran on Almasteach Major Network, making her one of the most well-known philanthropists. Between the 1980s and the 1990s, tens of millions were raised thanks to her dedication. Million funds and raised awareness of children living in poverty on a global scale. However, the ongoing publicity also brought her ads were parodied by shows like South Park and In Living Color. Making jokes out of her sincere requests. Nevertheless, she persisted in her quest for cause. Despite the fact that public opinion became divided, her charitable endeavors also putting her in actual risk. While visiting Uganda, what was supposed to be a hopeful visit took a scary turn. Armed and wary, guerrilla fighters emerged from the bushes. They claimed that Sally and her group had abducted a youngster. When her life was on, the linear priest who was accompanying her spoke in the native tongue, which helped to ease the tension. The combatants and subtly telling Sally and the others to gradually retreat without reversing course. That tiny but crucial deed probably saved their lives. Not all threats came from men with guns. While traveling again, Sally acquired hepatitis, a dangerous disease that is frequently transmitted by tainted food or water. The situation was really distressing for a single mother. It made her aware of the dangers that children in developing nations faced on a daily basis and served as a reminder that her efforts may be costly. Her existence. After being devoted for years, Sally decided to take a difficult break. She understood that she was more important to her daughter than to any cause. If something were to happen to her overseas, Samantha would have no mother left. 35 years later, Sally changed her priorities, protecting her kid, who had always been her top focus. Closer to home, Sally Diaz emerged as one of the most recognizable faces in the early 1990s. In solicitations to charities, her sincere appeals to save the children were intended to encourage optimism, while comedy shows harshly criticized them instead. In 1992, a sketch that featured her sitting at a table with a pile with food while requesting donations to help feed children who are starving. The viewers roared, but the cause wasn't the main focus. It was on making fun of Sally. She was made to look hypocritical by the spoof, which capitalized on her weight. The cartoon series South Park debuted in 1997, showed Sally storing food in Africa in its Starving Marvin episode, amid children who were famished. Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the show's creators, said that they believed it seems paradoxical that a woman who is overweight would publicly plead for meals for other people. They were so radical in their initial draft that because it ended with the villagers murdering and consuming her character, Comedy Central declined to broadcast it. The mockery did not confine oneself to television. Later, on Mark's WTF show, Sally revealed that she was quite aback when she first saw greeting cards mocking her ads for sale. She recalled going for walks. Seeing cards in a store made her heartfelt charity messages seem like jokes. She explained that she was astonished that her attempts to provide food for starving youngsters had become into harsh jokes. The cards displayed words and pictures that warped her emotions, phrases into jokes. It was agonizing evidence for Sally that she could even be swayed against by sincere goodwill. According to her, the encounter made her think about how cruel society is and whether kindness can ever be accepted really. Her looks also became a point of contention. The 1990s saw the rise of comedians, and her weight was frequently the subject of criticism rather than the kids she was attempting to assist. Her image was utilized by South Park as a recurring joke, while In Living Color's remarks about her body were directly related to her charitable endeavors. In interviews, Sally acknowledged that this fat-shaming was painful. She claimed she was baffled as to why her body was more significant than the cause she was championing. Public debates and online forums simply served to heighten the mockery. Louder, frequently implying that her activism was less genuine due to her weight. The consistency was deeply damaged by the criticism, and she subsequently acknowledged that the suffering of her decades of humanitarian efforts were overshadowed by such attacks. As the years went by, she repeatedly brought up the same query: is there something wrong with the world? She found it difficult to comprehend how being a national joke had made her a laughingstock. In interviews, she repeatedly expressed how puzzled she was that her attempt to save lives was the focus of terrible nasty jokes. She ultimately decided to distance herself due to the emotional toll from 35 years of public charity activity. According to her, it wasn't only the risks of visiting impoverished and insecure areas, as well as the pain of being made fun of for having compassion. Sally as well revealed a troubling recollection of Donald Trump from long before he was elected president. She remembered sitting on the other side of called him during an extravagant White House dinner, requesting permission to hold a charity event in the lobby of Trump Tower in New York. Auction of artwork. Of course, just give me a call, Trump said with a smile. Feeling optimistic, she left. But when she returned, the receptionist put her on hold for 5 minutes before eventually declaring his lack of interest in her. Sally finds that the abrupt shift from it was degrading to be generous and be rejected. She came clean about Mark years later. According to Marin's podcast, she now calls Trump the orange butthole. I said, she said. The criticism went beyond his looks to include how hurtful his dismissal had been, particularly in light of that it had been for youngsters who were famished. She wrote another agonizing chapter, Broadway Time. Sally co-starred with Rita Moreno in the 1985 Female The Odd Couple by Neil Simon at the Broadhurst Theatre. Sally subsequently referred to the 295 performances as one of the worst moments in her professional life. Rita, she claimed, was merely cruel and challenging human being and acknowledged that the poisonous workplace had a significant negative emotional impact. The performance was a hit on paper, but behind the scenes, it was a nightmare for Sally. Recently, Sally has shocked the public with a dramatic transformation in herself throughout the years. She made an appearance in the 2024 documentary looking healthier and more at the age of 77, more lively than she had been in decades. She disclosed that following heart palpitations in late 2022, she made the decision to drastically alter her way of life. She lost almost 35 pounds by following a plant-based diet and doing aerobics in the pool every day, providing up her go-to comfort foods, such as ice cream and cheeseburgers. Her family attested to the fact that her cholesterol had decreased and she felt happier. Pictures of her at a charity gala in May 2024 went viral, with many calling her metamorphosis She eventually discussed her lengthy association with Norman Lear, the renowned producer of All in the Household. Lear, who passed away at the age of 101 in December 2023, having been both her mentor and a cause for anxiety. In a 2024 interview, she disclosed that he frequently gave her performance criticism, which made her cry in her trailer and occasionally raging panic episodes prior to filming. Nevertheless, she acknowledged the encounter made her develop resiliency. She claimed that after learning to defend herself, she now feels comfortable discussing those trying years. Despite all of her hardships, Sally claims that her daughter, Samantha Struthers, is her biggest pride. She lifted Samantha as mostly alone herself, frequently taking her to charity events and TV sets happenings. Samantha received a summa cum laude degree from Sacramento's University of California, Barbara, in 2010, and by 2017 she had obtained a doctorate in clinical psychology. She is currently 36 years old, operates a lucrative private practice in Los Angeles, and regularly talks on podcasts about mental health. Sally has stated that she has always desired, regardless of the cost, Samantha should have had more opportunities than she did. There is now regarded as evidence of how love and resiliency can alter a family's trajectory. Currently, more than Sally remains impressive half a century after her initial rise to fame on All in the Family. She made an appearance in March 2024 at induction into the Television Hall of Fame, where she read animatedly from the old sitcom scripts. The crowd praised her comedy and vitality, giving her a 2-minute standing ovation. Detractors observed that her star power remained strong and that her appearance increased her social media following by 45% in such a short period of time, a week. It served as a reminder that genuine ability and fortitude never diminish, even following decades of trials.